He's still not officially a member of Parliament, but since his October 21st victory in the Calgary riding, formerly held by Liberal Kent Hare, it's been a whirlwind couple of weeks for Greg McLean, and the Conservative MP-elect for Calgary Centre joins us now. Greg McLean, you'll be a rookie MP, but you're not a stranger to politics at the federal level. What roles have you played as far back as the Brian Mulroney days?
Seems like a lifetime ago, but you're right. Back in the Mulroney government, I worked for two cabinet ministers here, one of them from Calgary Centre, coincidentally, the Honourable Harvey Andre, and also the Honourable Jean Corbet, who was the Minister of Transport in that government. Both excellent ministers and great learning experiences. Of course, I was quite young at the time, and you get baptized by fire in that system.
Well, how will that serve you now as MP for Calgary Centre?
Well, good question. I know a lot of people thought it was a plus in the nomination in getting somebody elected as a member of Parliament that actually had some experience in Ottawa, so you're not walking in blind to the way things happen in Ottawa. I'd say there's a lot of great MPs here that have all that experience, and I think having a little bit of background on it is going to help me a little bit as well. Although I will tell you, a lot changes in the years between when Brian Mulroney was Prime Minister of Canada and when Justin Trudeau was Prime Minister of Canada.
Well, now what are you expecting of your time on the opposition benches and squaring off against a Liberal minority government?
It is going to be interesting. We're here to hold the government to account. Obviously, we have a role as Her Majesty's loyal opposition to make sure that the government is held as accountable as possible for the way it delivers services to Canadians and spends Canadians' money. I think, personally, my background is in finance, and I do have some great reservations about the way this government is spending money, and I think we do need to challenge them on that at every step we take.
The Prime Minister is expected to unveil his cabinet in about a week and a half. How do you feel he should handle the absence of an elected Alberta voice at the cabinet table? Should he be appointing a senator? Or should he be appointing someone who is unelected?
Appointing somebody unelected would be nothing I've seen before. If he wants to appoint a senator as a cabinet minister representing both Alberta and Saskatchewan, or perhaps one of each, that might hold him in good stead. Nevertheless, I think this best way we can approach this current stalemate we have, if you will, between having no Liberal members of Parliament in Alberta, Saskatchewan, is actually to listen to the elected representatives in those provinces, both the members of Parliament, but also the elected premiers, who he should be on a first-name, first-call basis with as we move through what is somewhat of a crisis in our natural resource economy in Canada. So
with so much talk of Western alienation and even separation, what kind of note, though, does the Liberal minority government need to strike to bridge this divide between Ottawa and provinces like ours?
Well, obviously it's a big country, and to govern this country, you've got to make sure it holds together. When you're severely offside the interests of two significant resource-producing but very integral provinces to the financial welfare of Canada, you've got to step up and make sure that their interests are represented. They don't feel that they're just being pushed out as far as any decision-making regarding federal issues goes. So there is going to have to be some reaching out from the Prime Minister, I think, towards the two Western provinces, the two Western resource-producing provinces in question, and ensure that we aren't just continually marginalized.
Now, there will be 33 Conservative MPs from our province on Parliament Hill. You're one. Are you forming an Alberta-specific caucus? And if so, what have you discussed so far?
There is an Alberta caucus. There was an Alberta caucus in the last Parliament. There's always an Alberta caucus. Every one of the provinces has its own caucus. We had our first meeting as a full Alberta caucus on Wednesday morning, and we discussed issues that are relevant to Albertans about how we handle the same issues you and I are talking about here today. So those are things that we have to continue to move forward on behalf of our constituents at the national level.
On the state of your party after rampant post-election speculation and Wednesday's lengthy meeting, why is caucus unified around Andrew Scheer? What was said in that meeting to solidify support in his leadership?
We walk into caucus, and we had a long caucus meeting. We talked about a lot of things, but there was never one issue of Andrew Scheer's leadership. we always talked about having one captain on this team, and we're going to continue that. We have a caucus meeting. We air our thoughts, and the great thing about it, recognize it was my first full caucus meeting, is that everybody had open mic and nobody held back as far as what they think was part of the federal election, and we all with one voice are supporting the team we have together now, and we're looking forward, moving forward, and holding this government to account.
So as caucus, you address the leader. Now that same leader is to conduct a cross-country listening tour. What do you expect the message will be from grassroots members of your party?
Yeah, and it's a good question. I mean, I know that John Baird, previous minister, has been appointed there, and I think it's a great appointment. And what John gleans from members across the country and defeated candidates across the country, I think is going to be useful as well. Obviously, each of us can't do that. There's a whole bunch of defeated Conservative candidates, but also organizations that will give their feedback as well. And John, Mr. Baird, will come up with a report to the party at that point in time and to the leader's office about, here's what went wrong, and here's what we should probably do to make things go better in the future.
And on that point, what kind of changes do you feel Andrew Scheer needs to make to retain his hold on leadership and strengthen the party ahead of when Canadians go to the polls next?
Well, everybody in an election, you don't get everything right 100% of the time, and nobody expects you to. It's the whole thing about what is your policy, what are your policies, your party's policies here, and how do you move that forward on behalf of Canadians. And we're a team. We came forward with a team message on this, and some of that message didn't resonate with Canadians. We have to look at that and say what part of our message wasn't good enough for a good portion of Canadians that decided not to vote Conservative when the majority, more Canadians voted Conservative than any other party in this election. So those things have to be addressed. Where did we miss on that messaging so that, in fact, we can actually deliver a better result next time?
Mr. McLean, appreciate your time this evening. Thank you kindly, sir.
Thank you very much.
Greg McLean is the Conservative MP-elect for Calgary Centre.